Hello everyone, my name is Lowko and welcome to some more StarCraft 2 Legacy of the Void. Today it is time for a game analysis. I haven't actually done any game analysis in a while. Game analysis is, I guess that's it. Game analysis, it doesn't matter. Anyways, I haven't done any game analysis videos in quite some time just because I felt like I've done most of the things I wanted to cover as far as Zerg goes. Obviously there's still things to learn, but I've been trying to mix those in with the live games instead and just talk about what I should be working on instead in that video. Now, in this particular case, as you may be aware, I have been playing quite a bit of random. As of late, I've been managing to climb all the way up to rank 25 or so in Master League, playing purely random on that account, and obviously we are getting carried a little bit by my Zerg. My Zerg definitely is a little bit better than my other matches, but things are going well. In this particular case, I'm up against a Protoss player, and the reason why I want to show this game is not because it's a loss. I actually do end up winning this game, but I want to be having a critical look at the mistakes that I make, okay? So in this particular case, I'm going for a command center first, and I want to purely sort of use this as like a resource for me to look at the replay and talk about what I can be improving upon. So, as you notice, right off the bat, my opponent put down a pylon to try and block my entrance. Now, there's a couple things I have been learning in Terran versus Protoss. First off, I've noticed that a lot of Protoss players mess around with Oracle play. They go heavy Adept style. They switch usually into Disruptors, and sometimes they add on things like High Templar in the late game as well. Now, I'm pretty okay when they play a standard straight up match. I would say my Terran is probably somewhere in the lower end of Master League. My opponent right here, I believe, is like a mid-master to high-master level player. But I'm pretty bad in these wonky situations. So you notice, my opponent put down a gateway in my main base. He's trying to be annoying and just to be a nuisance, and he does that because I'm going for a command center first. I don't know if command center first is a viable opener. I'm assuming it's pretty alright, and I follow this up with double gateway. Obviously, I need to make sure I micro this relatively well, but I want to be looking at my decision making right here. So I'm trying to delay the bunker that I throw up until I know that there's not going to be there's not going to be anything out in my mineral line for another little while, but I want to make sure that I get it out in time. So I focus on getting the orbital command right away and then putting the bunker right behind that as well. Now, I am producing marines out of a couple of barracks, which I think is the correct choice, and then I go ahead and target fire down the pylon. Now, I know very well that this is a risk, okay? My opponent obviously is going to be sending the mothership core over as soon as he can, but in this particular case, as you can see on the production tab, it is still, it's still not quite done yet. He does manage to pick up a couple of workers. I really should be moving these back a little more aggressively, but I'm trying to use the terrain to my advantage to deal with all the things, and in the meantime, I'm making sure that I get more and more income here. Now, look at the supply loss, okay? Look at the supply count that I've lost so far. I've ended up losing 4 workers here. I'm pretty convinced that I could have gotten away with maybe 1, okay? I didn't really micro these guys. I didn't really control my marines very well. I could have started a step forward. That alone is already a big deal. Now also, look at the amount of supply that we have in general. It's 29 versus 19 supply. Obviously, 4 of that is lost SCVs, but a big chunk of that will also just be me not producing the orbital commands constantly. This one was done a little bit before I'm putting up the orbital. And I wasn't really producing any SCVs out of that. I wasn't really spending my resources that great either, and I've just been all around slower than I needed to be. So I didn't just only lose 4 workers for absolutely no apparent reason other than the Zealot hacking away at it. I probably could have microed against that. But I also just simply wasn't producing in that because it's a new situation. I've not seen this before. So the first mental note that I would like to create here is that I need to make sure that even when I'm being under a lot of pressure to keep on producing a lot of SCVs. Just keep on producing them, okay? It's better to lose them otherwise. Now, obviously, I did go for the CC first, so that's always going to be a little bit of something else. I'm going to go and be, behind the supply for a little bit. But I think I could have been closer to like 24, 25 supply. Maybe 26 supply if I would have played slightly better. So that's first things first. Also, I wonder if I should be adding on the 3rd barracks here. It's not really doing anything in particular. The 3rd barracks is being added on right now just in case he's going completely all in with it. And my thinking here was that he could potentially also be throwing the mothership core across the map. But if you look at the timing of this, I mean, he went for a relatively quick cyber core. The mothership core would only be now right about done, and he would have to still fly across the map. So I think next time around, around, when I'm in this scenario, I would rather prioritize getting a gas geyser instead, on top of producing a lot of stuff, because I'm obviously hurting myself quite a bit even after killing this, but it's simply not transitioning fast enough. Don't have enough minerals for or not enough gas to add on like a reactor here, and I'm just all in all putting myself behind unnecessarily. So third barracks, I do think it's a mistake. Double bunker is okay. I did not produce as often as I could. Now these little things, obviously, you may be looking at this, you'd be like, okay, this guy is really nitpicking, right? Like, why is he being so cheeky about it? Look at this. Why are you not microing that, Lowko? All right, there we go. It adds up. It adds up over time. I mean, master level players, they're not gonna let me like get away with really silly things like this. So I really should be working on that a lot more. So you can see right now, I'm finally starting to add on more workers. I'm starting to finally land more mules. I'm starting to finally, you know, produce those extra barracks, and I will eventually deal with the aggression that he's been throwing at me, but not without loss, okay? Not without loss at all. Do end up killing that pylon. Obviously gotta make sure I micro okay against the stalker. Don't really want to lose anything in particular. Do actually end up losing a marine here as well, I believe. I'm really not looking at that army anymore. I'm just not looking. Don't do it, Lowko. No! Alright, there we go. I don't think he wants to follow it up. I do go to the high ground here just to see if he is chasing me down. But all in all, you notice right here, right off the bat, right? There is a bit of shenanigans going on. I've been messed with. I feel thrown off my game. I'm pretty okay, like I said, in macro straight up matches, but when something cheeky like this happens, I feel like I'm at a deficit. So I'm starting to follow this up with my general play. Now, one of the previous things I've learned when playing this matchup is that there could be an oracle in my mineral line roughly 4 minutes into the game. And that's the reason why I am right now pulling my marines into the mineral line once again. I don't have my engineering bay done yet. I don't think that is that big of a deal. But I think I should probably be a little bit, you know, more proactive here. So you can see on the production tab right now, my opponent is indeed adding on a heck of a lot of units. Like, he's adding on gateways, he's producing an oracle, and he will shortly be able to do a lot of stuff. So I get the first missile turret down in the natural, and I should really be getting one in the main as well. On top of that, I didn't really wall off very quickly here at all, and he does a very cheeky move that catches me completely off guard, okay? Making me take additional damage. So I leave that mineral line because I know he could be pushing as well, and I know that the time has sort of passed of the oracle, right? Normally the oracle will fly in 4 minutes, 4 minutes 20 at the very latest, and if it doesn't, you know, go down yet, I seem to always be able to just pull my army away. Once again though, my opponent obviously invested early game resources to try and be annoying here, and I should be aware of the fact that these marines, you know, need to remain in there, because he obviously delayed himself by a good half minute or so. That means the oracle could still be swooping in, even at this point in the game. So I'm working off of timings that work when I play a straight up macro game, and I'm working off of timings that are great in other situations, but I get completely tricked out here. He's trying to be basically pulling my marines out of that mineral line. He does manage to do so successfully. And you can notice, like, he's just gonna keep on killing more SCVs. So far, 7 workers have been lost in this game. Oh, he probably could have gotten like 9 or so here if he tried a little better. Well, he gets 8 right here. He probably could have killed up to like 10 or so in total in this game, potentially even more. And I think I could have prevented maybe all of them. I mean, I'm not saying I should be preventing all of them, but I should have probably prevented at least like, you know, at least like 6 of those kills, okay? On top of that, once again, stacking up a bunch of resources wasn't producing non-stop. So I gotta think a little bit more clearly, right? I'm getting messed with early on. He's putting early game resources in that, which means that all of the potential aggression is gonna be delayed. I still need to make sure I follow it up with the same units. I just need to look at this clock and be like, okay, how much did he actually delay himself? And is there still gonna be a risk? On top of that, killing 1 stalker, you don't need like 20 marines for that. Also, you don't need to execute your own marine. I don't know why I did that. I didn't actually remember that. That marine just died for no apparent reason. Now, what I decided to follow this up with is a pretty standard follow-up, okay? I'm trying to go up to starport units, which is honestly a little late. I probably should have gotten that a little sooner. Also should have probably gotten that 3rd gas a little bit sooner, but those are relatively minor. Those are things I just need to work through from trial and error. But I could be following this up with a couple things. So I could be following this up with another command center. If I plan on going command center, I need to make it right about right now. I should be having it down probably already. Whereas in this case, I'm sort of like doing a mix. I want to go for aggression, but I also want to go and get an expansion. So I eventually do get the expo down, but I think this is a little bit on the later end of things. Once again, if we wouldn't have lost those workers initially, I probably couldn't have gotten this this command center down a good 30 seconds or so earlier. Now I'm still going to be moving out very shortly. One of the things I have learned as well as of late is to get the Stimpak upgrade first, rather than the combat shield one. It seems to be significantly better, even without medevacs. I'm producing double medevacs at a time right now though, and I should probably be adding on this Fort gas relatively shortly. But this is looking okay, this is looking okay. So, now that my upgrades are starting to finish up, I will be moving across the map. As you can see, I got a lot of Marines moving across the map here, and the main reason for that is because I know I'm in, you know, a pretty terrible place. I mean, everything considered, macro-wise I've been catching up quite well. As you can see, like, I've been winning most of the games as well because of just pure macro and just producing more stuff than my opponent. But supply-wise, I'm still pretty far behind here. Shouldn't be this far behind, right? It's relatively silly. I do think that this upgrade or this timing push that I'm doing here lines up pretty good. Maybe I could be waiting a little bit more until the +1 armor is done, but I mean, since Stimpak is finishing up, it's okay. Now keep in mind, there's no medevacs with his army, right? So I have no way of escaping, I have no way of healing up this army. I think this right here was a mistake too. What I do here is something that I've learned the hard way in a game after this one, okay? So let me back up just for a second. What I do here is move up with the entire army in one big clump, Marauders in the back, absolutely no reason for it, but on top of that, he could just simply force build behind, you know, and whether or not he has Disruptors out, whether or not he has Charge Slots out, whether or not he has Colossus out, there's a lot of things that could go wrong here. So in this particular case, it's not going wrong, but that's bad, right? That's not what you want to do. So once again, I'm moving up that ramp, should be moving up with a Marine, should be having my medevacs out already right here, and I should be simply, you know, more aware of what could potentially be happening. Now, I do a relatively okay split here. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of units out from my opponent, so I decide to go for the drop in the main base. I think this is an okay thing. One of the things I should probably work on here, though, is immediately push this as hotkey 2, so just hit Alt +2 with this army selected, and Alt +1 on the 2 medevacs in the main. That way, I'm not going to mess up any of my control groups anymore. Control groups is one of those things I've also been struggling with, and sometimes I just simply start flooding for no apparent reason, and I just, you know, don't control my army very well. I am trying to bait him out right now though. Gonna go for the drop in the main, which I think is a good decision, considering he's going Colossus Zealot. I mean, he's not gonna be able to get very much out of this. I'm just simply gonna stutter step forward, nuke down that Nexus as soon as I can. Now at this point, it seems like he's going across the map, and I am gonna simply follow this up with as much home defense as I could. I am currently producing 5 Marines and 1 Marauder at a time. Is that enough? Honestly, it probably is not. Look at my minerals and look at my gas count. Remember when I mentioned I probably should be getting the Fort gas? I think I should get that Fort gas right around the same time as I start up this 3rd command center, just because it will allow me to produce more Marauders. In this specific case, I'm not having enough barracks with reactors down, and I'm even producing Marines out of one, right? That's just sloppy macro. That's just sloppy play in general. Also, armory is a little bit on the later end, but I can forgive myself for that. So long story short, right? So far, I lost unnecessary amounts of workers in this specific case. I didn't realize that obviously if he is going to do early game aggression, the Oracle is going to swoop in a little bit later. And I am not going heavy enough into the amount of Marauders that I'm producing. 3rd command center was later than it should have been. Fort gas practically non-existent. As far as good things go, I think I microed relatively okay. I think I did this drop relatively okay as well. I've not been dropping for any more than like 5-6 games so far with Terran. I've been avoiding that like the plague for the most part, just because I find it really difficult to control. But I was pretty happy with the way this one turned out. Now, in this particular case, there is going to be Phoenixes out, so I have to be careful here. Gonna end up dropping a bunch of my Marines once again and just stim those. Make sure that I, you know, don't lose too much. And I even get the Mothership Core here. That's a huge pickup. That's a huge pickup. So I do want to move home here. Gotta make sure I control this army. And if I can at all avoid it, I should try and not lose these medevacs. Still, also not actually producing any more medevacs, and I do start producing the double Vikings. I wonder, one of the things I should be messing around with as well, and I'm not sure if that's the correct thing to do, but I could be potentially adding on another starport here as well, just to produce more medevacs, but to also produce extra Colossi. Next time around, what I do want to give a try as well is to add on a 2nd starport as soon as I see that my opponent is going for Colossi. I think that's a correct choice. Also, I think at that point, I could just add on more gases to begin with, and maybe even go for the second engineering bay. Now notice, still not really producing any more marauders. Not producing any more marauders than I should. Marauders definitely plow through everything in this army. And even though, you know, my army is significantly bigger than his, it's not necessarily much more cost efficient. Now, I'm trying to split up here, trying to target fire down at least reasonably well. But you can see, like, even though my army was so much bigger there, I actually don't even know if that army, you know, if that fight right there was a good one. Probably shouldn't have done that, to be honest. I mean, that fight turned out to be okay, but it could have definitely gone terrible. It could have gone absolutely terrible. And I think that's due to the fact of me having too many Marines and too few Marauders. So, yeah, next time what I'll do is immediately add on more reactors on my, or immediately more tech labs on my barracks rather than reactors. So right now I added in more reactors to go for Marines instead. Go heavy Marauder, and also immediately add on a second starport. Obviously, besides the other little things that I just walked around. Now, at this point, I will be pushing up the ramp a little more aggressively here. I'm gonna go for a drop here. I'm trying to obviously bait him out, and we're just trying to, you know, distract him while being annoying to my opponent, killing as much as I can here. Now, this is something I like to do with a lot of games, and I know this may sound very critical, right, and very negative. This is not meant by any stretch of the imagination as like a negative way of looking at myself. I know very well that I could potentially be good at Terran, okay? I could be good at playing this race. The only issue is that if I try to be good with this race, I obviously need to try and minimize the amount of mistakes that I made. And while that may sound negative, and while that may sound like something that I should, you know, be careful about, I don't mind losing. I mean, my opponent does mind losing, as you can very clearly see here. There's a lot of things I need to be working on, right? And I'm just being mostly critical about my own play. And while you definitely just heard me sum up probably about 20 or so mistakes, that's just things that I try and be like mentally aware of while I'm playing the game, right? I try and look at the losses and the wins that I get, and I try and look at the scenario and be like, okay, what could I have changed up? I mean, even though I am, you know, 40 or like, you know, I was like 40 supply ahead a couple minutes ago, I'm thinking more in the sense, okay, I am ahead right now, but could I have been more ahead, right? I mean, I'm only at +1/+1 upgrades. That's not very impressive for 11 minutes into the game. I also am very Marine heavy. I just added on my reactors. That is just not very good at this stage in the game either. I should probably be switching into Fort gases sooner. Never even ended up taking that thing. You know, making minor mistakes that add on over time. And if I want to try and push to get towards the higher Master League regions with playing Terran, I need to make sure that these little mistakes are going to be fixed. So I hope this at the very least gave you like a look at more of like a critical way of thinking at my own game. Maybe I should have shown you a loss. I mean, it's the same story either way though. I make similar mistakes in a lot of games. I know very well it's gonna take me a while to get those things under control and to get them fixed. But hopefully you can apply some of this thought process in your own game, okay? It doesn't matter if you win, or it doesn't matter if you lose. It doesn't really add very much to the value at all. I'm trying to improve in the long term. I'm trying to be a better Terran player in 4 months from now, rather than like right now, right? These ladder points, that's okay. The season is going to be ending. Nobody cares. I try and improve in the long term rather than in the short term, and in order for me to do that, I need to be very critical of the way that I am currently playing. So hopefully you can apply some of this to your own games as well. Look at your replays, look at the mistakes that you've made, write them down. The physical act of writing them down is actually very helpful for me. I didn't do that this time around, but I sometimes find it very helpful to just simply write down the mistakes that I made. And, you know, the act of writing them down basically makes it a heck of a lot, you know, easier for you to not make the same mistakes next time. Because writing down is painful, man. You hate making the mistakes over again when you notice that you just wrote them down. But either way, I want to thank you all for watching. Let me know if you would like to see more of this critical type content down below in the like button in the comment section of this video. And I want to thank you all for watching. Have an amazing day. Do not forget to smile, okay? I'll see you in the next one. Bye!